This time on To the Horizon Sailing, we had a calm but rainy pit stop in Neah Bay. Still buzzing from the accomplishment of sailing north up the treacherous west coast, we made it to the Straits of Fuca.
Alright, leaving Neah Bay. Beautiful here. We got places to be.
Where are we going to, honey?
We are headed to John Wayne Marina, or at least the anchorage next to it if they don't have any space. But we are headed to meet the original owners of our boat, Neah and Betty, that have driven out to come see us. We can't wait. We've been emailing back and forth and messaging for a while now, and we can't wait to meet them in real life and hear all the stories and get to show them what we've done with Gemini.
After the high winds and rough seas, it felt like we were motoring on a lake. Time to change gears and shift our mind states to anchor hopping and day trips to avoid hitting logs at night.
He's always there for you. I keep living alone. We're so far from home.
Coming into John Wayne Marina. All right, Jack just beasted the docking here. There's a tight little corner space here. I don't know if you can tell, but he turned it around in this little nook and docked like a boss. Good job, honey.
Phew, that was fun. We planned to meet the original owners of Gemini, Neah and Betty, in person at John Wayne Marina. They hadn't seen Gemini, previously named Europa, in about 15 years. It was a whirlwind of emotion for all of us, and a constant stream of stories and reminiscing.
Neah and Betty owned her for 20 years, and 12 of those years they lived aboard and cruised the Pacific Northwest, so they had tons of stories to share.
That's after the bottom paint was put on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fresh.
Oh yeah, we were so excited.
Did you have any pushback from the designer on what you wanted modified?
No.
No, they were all just, yeah, sure, we'll move this, we'll
Our
move that.
designer was Stan Huntingford,
Yeah,
a Canadian guy.
yeah.
And we never really met him, and we never really received any flack or adverse feedback from Pete and Joe, all the stuff that
Yeah.
we were adding.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
All the breathing and eye protection that they're wearing,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, serious.
So the lifespan of their fiberglass workers is
Yeah.
very good.
Wow, look at that mat just going down like that.
I'm trying to remember how many guys at the high point they had working inside this boat. Do you remember? I think at one point they had 20 some odd of them little Taiwanese working on the interior of this boat.
Well, yeah, because they had a deadline, that they had to get it shipped by, and so
Gemini entered quite a few races around the area in her early days, the most memorable being the 45th running of the Swiftsure Classic race, taking first ahead of a Cal 40 and toughing it out in the high winds and challenging conditions that had many other boats drop out.
Yeah, we spent our first night on Europa. She was in the boatyard with no mast, no nothing. And we're laying there on the settee, and our first observation was this, and then later on we moved aboard. This is romantic. You got the soft tunes and the oil lamp going and all the warm teak stuff. And as one of our yacht broker friends said, the thing that'll help you sell your boat is show it yourself. Fixed, spiffed her up and cleaned her up.
Yeah.
So we sat in the rain for 10 days showing people the boat. One guy came, looked, came back with his friend. They looked, came back with his friend and his wife. and that was Travis and Jennifer.
Oh, that's so funny. Thank you so much for bringing all this and
Oh yeah,
for digitalizing
Yes.
it so we can keep it forever.
right.
We talked non-stop for hours and enjoyed a wonderful dockside dinner before saying our goodbyes. Then it was back to boat projects.
Well, our heater ran all the way through 40-knot winds up the coast and splashes over the bow and all that fun stuff.
And it ran for like a week straight.
Yeah, and then we finally turned it off, and then now we had some trouble starting it last night. It kept kind of like backflowing and smoking into the boat, which is not fun. Of course, you start one project and it turns into another because the fan has always been finicky. We've had like a little like paper clip thing holding the wires together because they weren't creating the best contact. So now I've got the little fan off and we're gonna have to solder the wires back on because that's, yeah, like this little guy was barely touching and that's what was causing all the trouble.
After 2 days of being at John Wayne Marina in Sequim, Washington, we are headed to Port Townsend today. It should be about 3 or 4 hour motor. The current's going with us, so that's good. But yeah, it's a beautiful day here.
We did in fact get some wind, but this time it was right on the nose. Oh, and we timed the current wrong, so we were fighting it most of the day. We were still Pacific Northwest newbies when it comes to reading the current.
The Puget Sound Customs District was moved to Port Townsend in 1854, just 3 years after the town was founded. Port Townsend's strategic location at the entrance to Puget Sound quickly transformed it into a nautical hub. Every vessel entering Puget Sound from any foreign port had to make its first stop at Port Townsend. It quickly became a thriving international seaport with a reputation as notorious as San Francisco's Barbary Coast. We were lucky enough to catch the farmers market in town for some fresh goods and people watching. Starfish in your mouth. That looks way too big to eat in one bite, dude.
We found the closest thing to Berkeley Bowl, which is our favorite grocery store back in the Bay. Stocked up on fresh produce and bulk items, it was time to prep for departure to begin exploring the San Juan Islands. With as much food as we could carry, we made one last pit stop at Admiral Ship Supply to finally pick up the toilet, which had arrived.
All right, what do we have here?
Provisions, toilet, tide book, gasket, ratchet straps,
All the things.
cart, 2 humans.
It was time to get back to Gemini and finally replace that broken toilet.
After 2 weeks, get my new toilet, same exact model, just not broken. All right, let's get to wrenching.
It is bright and early this morning and we are picking up anchor at Port Townsend, headed to Lopez Island. Hopefully gonna make it to Fisherman's Bay, which is where we're gonna get married later on this summer. So we're gonna go check out the venue, anchor out there for a couple days, and then we'll head into Canada.
Join us next time, and stay salty, my friends.
Thanks for watching, and a huge thanks to our patrons for keeping this boat afloat. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to follow along on the next adventure.